reinforcements to help get through to Peter. All three men were chemists for Shell, all three German. They had known each other 40 years. Their wives were German too. They were debating whether Germany should send troops to Iraq. Katya joined the argument. I just listened. I can't speak German. My phone rang. Kara said, "You won't believe this, but in the files we found a picture of the jury. One of the jurors must have had a Polaroid." I said, "Yeah?" She said, 12 white faces. Kara had called me on a Saturday afternoon because this was stunning and important. In the mid-1980s, the U.S. Supreme Court decided a case called Batson v. Kentucky. The court ruled that prosecutors are not permitted to remove blacks from the jury on account of their race. They still do it routinely, of course, but they aren't supposed to. And if you can prove a Batson violation, your client gets a new trial. Sterrett was tried in East Texas, in a county that is 60% black. The odds of having an all-white jury by sheer chance were like winning the lotto twice. The inverse of that calculation meant that the odds of prosecutorial misconduct were substantial. But proving a so-called Batson violation is difficult and time-consuming. We would need to learn the race of the potential jurors the prosecutors struck, and we would need to try to figure out why they struck them. We would need to compare how the prosecutors questioned potential white jurors with how they questioned potential black jurors. And before we could do that, we would need to figure out the color of all the people questioned who were not on the jury. Putting together a Batson claim takes months. We had less than 3 days. I said, "Have the students do the research on who is what color. Write a claim with whatever you can learn. Get it to me by noon Monday. We have to file by 6. She said, "You think there's enough time?" I said, "Nope. Tell whoever's working on it that the goal is neither completeness nor perfection. We don't need an A+. We need a D-. If Sterrett's still alive in a week, we'll make the claim better." Even though Sterrett was not scheduled to die until Wednesday, I wanted to file the papers by Monday because the Texas court had a rule requiring that challenges to executions be filed 48 hours in advance. Lawyers who violate the rule are subject to a laundry list of sanctions, including jail and disbarment. The chief judge on the court had already publicly accused me of telling lies about her in an effort to get her removed from the bench. I didn't want to press the court's buttons. Kara said, "We're on it." The other two couples left. Peter asked whether I wanted to take a stroll while the coals burned down. I didn't. I said, "Sure." He said, "Will you smoke this cigar while we walk?" He handed me a Bolivar Robusto, a strong Cuban cigar that's one of my favorites. Peter used to tell me not to smoke. I said, "You want me to smoke this?" He said, "Now that my fate is sealed, I'm sampling sin. The second-hand smoke will please me." I turned around and looked at Katya. She shrugged her shoulders and rolled her eyes. We crossed the street, walked across a meadow, and into the forest. We walked for 20 minutes. The only sounds were leaves crunching and Peter's heavy breathing. Then he said, "Last night I finished the book of Montaigne essays. In one, Montaigne says that all human beings are double, so that we do not believe what we believe. It made me think of you. How I never know what you believe. How you disagree and argue just to test some hypothesis. Do you remember how that day on the Salt Flats you told me my commitment to environmentalism was a mere aesthetic choice, devoid of any moral value?" I did remember. I nodded. He said, "That angered me, until I realized you were just pressing me to make the moral argument more perspicuous. It comforted me to know that you and I do not disagree on much that is fundamental. And that is why I am so troubled that we do not agree on who owns my life. Aren't all of us entitled to control our own destinies?"